Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Wisdom channel. Tonight, we'll be exploring Dharma, one of the most influential ideas of all the world's religions. It is a word with many meanings, but its heart is simple. Dharma points toward the way life is held together and toward the way a human being can live in harmony with that deeper order. Across ancient India, Dharma became a guide for action. It shaped how people understood duty and changed the way they faced suffering. In some traditions, it became a path of pure wisdom, while in others, it became a way to live a life full of meaning. This makes Dharma difficult to reduce to one thing, and also impossible to ignore. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders relax and notice your eyes grow heavy. And as the day begins to gently fade away, join me as we explore this ancient teaching together. Let's begin. Dharma began as a word for the order that holds reality together. Before it became a religious teaching, it pointed towards something much older and more unsettling. It suggested that the world was not just a pile of events, but a patterned reality with an inner stability. Fire rose, water flowed, seasons returned, promises mattered. Rituals had power because they aligned human life with this deeper arrangement. Some people hear that and think of natural law. Others hear something stranger, as if ancient thinkers were describing an invisible architecture behind ordinary experience. The fascination is that Dharma did not begin as a private belief. It was closer to a recognition that life works through relationship. A person, a family, a ruler, and even a ritual could either support order or weaken it. This made human conduct cosmic in scale. A small action was never merely small. It belonged to the structure of the whole. That is why Dharma still feels enormous. It turns daily life into participation in reality itself. In Indian wisdom, Dharma can mean duty, truth, teaching, and law. This is one reason the word is so difficult to translate. It does not fit neatly into a single English box. In one setting, it can describe the responsibility of a ruler. In another, it can mean the truth taught by an awakened teacher. Elsewhere, it may refer to moral order, social obligation, religious practice, or the way things actually are. That range is not a weakness. It is part of the power. Dharma became a meeting point between outer conduct and inner understanding. It could guide a farmer, a monk, a parent, a warrior, or a king without meaning exactly the same thing for each one. That flexibility makes it feel strangely modern. We still ask whether truth is only something we believe or something we must live. We still ask whether duty is imposed from outside or discovered from within. Dharma holds those questions together without making them easy. The same word shaped Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh thought differently. This is one of the great surprises of Indian spiritual history. A single word moved through several traditions and carried a different charge in each one. In many Hindu settings, it became deeply tied to right action and sacred order. In Buddhism, it became the teaching that leads beyond suffering. In Jain thought, it became inseparable from carefulness toward life. In Sikh teaching, Dharma came to mean righteous living before the divine. The remarkable thing is not that these traditions used the same word. The remarkable thing is that none of them treated it as a small idea. Each one placed it close to the center of the human problem. How should we live? What is real? What do we owe to others? What changes when the ego is no longer in command? For anyone drawn to hidden connections, This shared word feels like a doorway into a vast civilizational conversation. Buddhism turned Dharma into a practical medicine for suffering. The Buddha did not present his teaching as a theory meant only for admiration. He presented it as something to be tested in experience. The condition was suffering. The cause had to be understood. The relief had to be practiced. The path had to be walked. This gave Buddhist Dharma a very direct quality. It was not mainly about pleasing a distant power or defending an identity. It was about studying the mind with enough honesty to see why pain keeps repeating itself. That is what makes it feel so radical. The problem is not only what happens to us. It is how craving, fear, memory, and resistance shape the way we meet what happens. Some people find this almost psychological, before psychology existed. Others sense something even more powerful. The teaching turns attention inward without making life smaller. It suggests that freedom begins when the machinery of suffering becomes visible. Hindu traditions made Dharma the path of living in rightful harmony. Here, Dharma often becomes a way of asking whether a life is properly aligned. Not perfect, not effortless. Aligned. A person has relationships, responsibilities, stages of life, abilities, limits, and choices. The task is not to escape all of that immediately. The task is to live through it with integrity. This gives Hindu Dharma a strong connection to household life, public duty, ritual practice, and spiritual growth. It can sound ordinary until its depth becomes clear. The family is not merely personal. Work is not merely economic. A promise is not merely social. Each becomes a place where the deeper order of life is either honored or ignored. That is why many stories in the Hindu world do not give simple moral answers. They show people facing duties that collide. The drama comes from a powerful insight. The right path may exist, but seeing it clearly can demand courage, humility, and sacrifice. Jain Dharma taught that even careless living can disturb unseen life. Jain thought takes sensitivity to life further than almost any other tradition. It teaches that harm is not limited to obvious violence. It can happen through habits, speech, appetite, movement, and neglect. This produces a startling moral vision. The universe becomes crowded with living presence, much of it too subtle to notice in an ordinary state of mind. A person is then asked to become more awake to consequences. The point is not paranoia. It is refinement. Jain Dharma trains the practitioner to reduce harm through discipline, restraint, and awareness. Some people may find this extreme at first. Then the idea begins to change shape. What if ethical life is not only about avoiding major wrongdoing? What if it begins in the tiny places where we usually stop paying attention? That possibility makes Jain teaching deeply provocative. It suggests that carelessness is not neutral. It leaves a trace. A person's dharma can change with age, role, and circumstance. This idea prevents dharma from becoming a flat rulebook. What is right for a child may not be right for a ruler. What is right for a student may not be right for a renunciant. What is right in peace may not be right during danger. This does not mean anything goes. It means wisdom has to read the situation. In many Indian traditions, human life is understood through changing responsibilities. One's path can shift as the body matures, relationships deepen, and understanding grows. That makes Dharma dynamic. It asks a person to listen carefully to context without surrendering moral seriousness. This is where it becomes intensely useful. Many people suffer because they cling to an old identity after life has already asked something new of them. Dharma challenges that. It says the real question may not be what kind of person you once were. It may be what this moment now requires. Ashoka used Dharma to govern one of history's largest ancient empires. The story of Ashoka is astonishing because it places Dharma inside power. Here was an emperor ruling a vast realm, and after the horrors of conquest, his public message changed toward moral restraint. His inscriptions speak of compassion, respect, self-control, and concern for different communities. Whether every policy matched every ideal is a question historians continue to examine. Yet the larger fact remains gripping. An ancient ruler tried to make ethical instruction part of statecraft. Some people see this as propaganda. Others see a rare attempt to soften authority from within. Either way, Dharma became more than temple language. It was carved into stone and sent across an empire. Imagine a government using public monuments not only to boast of victory, but to urge patience, mercy, and seriousness about conduct. That is why Ashoka still fascinates. His reign asks whether power can ever truly serve moral awakening, or whether it always bends wisdom to its own designs. The Bhagavad Gita turns Dharma into a crisis of conscience. The setting is unforgettable. A warrior stands between two armies and sees teachers, relatives, and friends on both sides. His body fails him. His certainty breaks. He does not ask for an abstract lecture. He asks what he is supposed to do when every option feels stained. That is why the Gita has lasted. It places Dharma at the exact point where spiritual language often becomes difficult. Peace sounds noble, but avoidance can hide fear. Duty sounds noble, but action can hide ambition. Krishna's teaching does not remove the tension. It deepens it. The question becomes whether one can act without being ruled by ego, grief, or desire for reward. This is why the text speaks so powerfully to modern life. Most people will never stand on a battlefield. Many will stand in a moment where conscience, loyalty, and fear pull in different directions. The Gita begins there. Modern self-improvement often echoes Dharma without naming its source. Many ideas now sold as productivity advice have older spiritual relatives. Act with purpose. Control attention. Serve something larger than personal mood. Do the right thing without obsessing over applause. Notice how desire manipulates the mind. Train daily conduct instead of waiting for inspiration. These themes appear across Dharma traditions in far deeper form than most modern slogans suggest. The difference is important. Dharma is not merely about becoming more successful. It asks what success is serving. It asks whether ambition has made a person clearer or more enslaved. This is where the subject becomes quietly disruptive. A modern person may approach Dharma hoping for calm, focus, or confidence. Then, the teaching begins to ask harder questions. What are you building? Who benefits from your discipline? What are you becoming through your habits? It is self-improvement turned inside out. The goal is not a shinier ego. The goal is a truer life. Dharma is not one doctrine, but a family of living meanings. This matters because people often search for one final definition. With Dharma, that search can become misleading. The word has moved through centuries. Languages, debates, rituals, law codes, sermons, poems, monasteries, courts, and homes. It has meant different things because human life presents different problems. A monk needs one kind of guidance. A judge needs another. A grieving person needs another. A seeker facing the mind needs another still. The word survives because it can travel between these worlds without becoming empty. It carries a shared concern for order, truth, responsibility, and awakening, but it does not freeze them into one formula. Some people love hidden systems because they suspect reality is connected beneath the surface. Dharma offers a serious version of that intuition. It says, conduct, perception, and the shape of the world are not separate subjects. They meet in the way a person lives. Ancient Vedic thinkers linked Dharma to cosmic stability and human responsibility. In early Indian thought, ritual was not treated as mere ceremony. It was often understood as a way of participating in the balance of existence. Words had force. Offerings had meaning. Correct action mattered because the human world and the cosmic order were connected. This can sound strange to a modern ear, but it reveals a powerful worldview. People were not isolated observers standing outside nature. They were participants in a living order. Their duties helped maintain harmony between seen and unseen dimensions of life. Some people might compare this to the idea that consciousness and reality are more entangled than modern culture usually admits. Whether one accepts that or not, the insight is profound. The ancient mind did not always separate physics, ethics, speech, and sacred action as sharply as we do. Dharma emerged from that integrated vision. It made responsibility larger than personal preference. Buddhist monks memorized Dharma before many teachings were written down. For centuries, the survival of teaching depended on human memory. Groups of practitioners preserved discourses through recitation, repetition, and communal discipline. This is easy to underestimate today because writing feels permanent and memory feels fragile. Yet oral cultures developed extraordinary methods for accuracy. Patterns, repeated phrases, numbered teachings, and shared chanting helped stabilize huge bodies of material. There is something almost mysterious about that. Before printing, before digital archives, before search engines, Dharma lived inside trained voices and attentive minds. A teaching could cross generations because people carried it with the seriousness of a sacred trust. This also shaped the style of many Buddhist texts. They often sound rhythmic because they were meant to be remembered aloud. The spoken quality is not accidental. It is part of the transmission. When we hear these teachings today, we are not only receiving ideas, we are touching an ancient technology of memory. Every Dharma tradition asks what kind of life truly supports awakening. This question is bigger than belief. A person might admire wisdom and still live in a way that makes wisdom almost impossible. Too much distraction can weaken attention. Too much selfishness can harden the heart. Too much indulgence can cloud judgment. Too much pride can make correction unbearable. Dharma traditions notice this with remarkable seriousness. They ask how daily life prepares the mind for truth or prevents it from entering. This is why conduct matters so much. Ethics are not only about being approved by others. They are part of the conditions for seeing clearly. Some people imagine awakening as a sudden flash that arrives from nowhere. Dharma usually gives a more demanding answer. It says, the ground must be prepared. Speech, work, food, relationships, thought, and intention all shape what the mind becomes able to recognize. The ordinary day is not outside the path. It is where the path is built. The word Dharma comes from a root meaning to hold or support. That origin opens the whole subject. At its deepest level, Dharma is connected to what upholds. It can be the principle that supports the world. It can be the teaching that supports liberation. It can be the duty that supports a life. It can be the conduct that supports trust. The meaning changes, but the underlying motion remains. Something is being held together. Something is being kept from collapse. This gives the word a physical feeling without reducing it to matter. A bridge supports crossing. A promise supports relationship. A discipline supports attention. A truth supports courage when comfort disappears. Some people are drawn to the idea that ancient languages preserve clues about lost ways of seeing. Dharma is a perfect example. Its root suggests that wisdom was not only about escape from life. It was about discovering what makes life reliable, meaningful, and capable of carrying the weight of awakening. Kings were judged by Dharma as much as by power. In many Indian traditions, rulership was not simply the ability to command. A ruler was expected to protect order, uphold justice, honor obligations, and restrain destructive impulses. This made kingship morally dangerous. The more power a ruler possessed, the more serious the responsibility became. A weak private person might harm a few. A corrupt ruler could damage an entire realm. That is why stories about kings often become tests of Dharma. The throne reveals character. It exposes greed, fear, vanity, and wisdom. Some tales show rulers failing because they confuse authority with righteousness. Others show them sacrificing comfort to preserve order. This is fascinating because it challenges the modern habit of measuring leadership only by success. Dharma asks a deeper question. Did power serve life, or did life become fuel for power? That question has never become outdated. It follows every palace, parliament, company, and household where authority exists. Personal freedom in Dharma begins with understanding responsibility correctly. At first, this can sound backwards. Modern culture often imagines freedom as fewer limits and more choices. Dharma tends to look more carefully. It asks what happens when choice is ruled by craving, fear, pride, or confusion. A person may feel free while being pulled by forces they barely understand. Real freedom begins when one sees the bonds clearly. Responsibility is not just a burden placed on the self. It can be a way of becoming less enslaved by impulse. When someone keeps a promise, speaks truthfully, or acts with restraint, they are training inner strength. This is not passive obedience. It is self-mastery. Some people find this idea almost hidden in plain sight. The duties we resent may be the very places where unconscious patterns are exposed. Dharma does not deny the longing for freedom. It purifies it. It asks whether we want freedom for the ego or freedom from the ego. Some traditions say Dharma protects those who protect it. This saying sounds simple, but it carries a powerful warning. It does not mean life will always become easy for a moral person. It means that when people uphold truth, justice, restraint, and care, those same forces preserve the conditions that make life livable. Break trust long enough, and community becomes dangerous. Mock truth long enough, and speech becomes useless. Abandon restraint long enough, and desire becomes a ruler. In this sense, Dharma protects by being protected. It is less like a magical shield and more like a deep law of consequence. Some people hear something almost esoteric in the phrase. They wonder whether moral order has a way of answering us beyond visible cause and effect. Even without going that far, the insight remains sharp. A person does not safeguard wisdom as a favor to the universe. They safeguard it because without it, their own world begins to fall apart from within. Buddhist Dharma starts with the uncomfortable honesty of suffering. The first move is not flattery. It does not begin by telling us that everything is fine. It asks us to look directly at our needs. Birth brings vulnerability. Pleasure changes. Loss arrives. The body ages. The mind clings. Even success can become a source of fear because we know it can disappear. This honesty can feel dark at first, but it is actually compassionate. A healer cannot help by denying the wound. The Buddha's teaching begins where most people spend their energy looking away. That is why it has such force. It names the pressure inside ordinary existence without making the listener feel condemned. Some people are startled by how modern this feels. It resembles a diagnosis of the human condition. Yet it also refuses despair. Suffering is not presented as a final truth. It is presented as a truth that can be understood. That one shift changes everything. Hindu Dharma often begins with knowing where one stands in life. The starting point is not always a grand mystical experience. It may be the clear recognition of one's actual situation. Who depends on you? What role have you accepted? What capacities do you possess? What obligations are already present before desire begins speaking? This approach can feel challenging because it does not let a person hide inside vague spirituality. It asks for location. A student has a path. A parent has a path. A leader has a path. A seeker near the end of life may have another. The meaning is not that identity should imprison anyone. The point is that wisdom must enter the life one truly has. Many people dream of transformation while neglecting the duties directly in front of them. Hindu Dharma often interrupts that fantasy. It says the sacred is not reached by pretending to stand elsewhere. It begins by seeing the ground beneath your own feet with total honesty. Jain Dharma makes non-violence a discipline of body, speech, and mind. In Jain teaching, non-violence is not simply a rule against physical harm. It becomes a total training of the person. What you do matters. What you say matters. Even the intention behind a reaction matters. This creates one of the most demanding ethical systems ever developed. A careless insult is not treated as harmless just because no wound appears. A greedy thought is not ignored just because it remains hidden. The practitioner is asked to notice how harm begins long before it becomes visible. That is what makes the teaching so fascinating. It maps violence at the level of habit. The hand may strike last, but the mind often prepares the action first. Some people hear in this a kind of ancient moral technology. It is a method for catching disturbance before it spreads into the world. Jain Dharma turns peace into a precise discipline. It asks a person to become harmless at the root, not merely polite on the surface. Sikh teaching uses Dharma to describe righteous living before the divine. In Sikh thought, Dharma is not about withdrawing from the world to look holy from a distance. It is about living truthfully while standing inside real life. Work matters. Courage matters. Service matters. The householder can be spiritual without abandoning the marketplace, the family, or the needs of the community. This gives Sikh teaching a remarkable force. It refuses the easy split between devotion and responsibility. A person does not prove wisdom by escaping ordinary duties. A person proves it by meeting them with integrity. There is also a deep challenge here. Dharma is lived before the divine, which means appearance is not enough. Reputation cannot replace sincerity. Public identity cannot cover a divided heart. Some people find this idea electrifying because it turns every ordinary act into a witness. The smallest decision becomes part of one's spiritual biography. The question is not whether life looks sacred. The question is whether it is being lived truthfully. Dharma can turn ordinary work into spiritual training. A task does not have to look religious to become part of the path. Cooking, repairing, teaching, cleaning, raising children, leading a team, or caring for someone who cannot repay, you can all reveal the state of the mind. Work exposes impatience. It shows whether attention is steady. It tests whether the ego needs praise for every effort. This is why Dharma can be so practical. It does not leave wisdom floating above life. It brings it into the place where the hands are busy and the mind is tempted to complain. Some people imagine spiritual practice as something that begins only when the world becomes quiet. Dharma offers a stronger possibility. The workplace, the home, and the daily obligation can become a training ground. The same action can be bondage when done from craving. It can become freedom when done with clarity. The outer task may be simple. The inner transformation may be immense. The Four Noble Truths are among Buddhism's central Dharma teachings. Their power comes from their structure. They do not begin with belief. They begin with a problem that every human being can recognize. Life contains unease. This unease has causes. Those causes can cease. There is a path that leads toward that ending. It sounds simple, but it is one of the most elegant frameworks in world philosophy. It is almost like a spiritual diagnosis. The Buddha does not ask the listener to admire mystery for its own sake. He asks them to investigate experience. Where does dissatisfaction arise? What feeds it? What weakens it? What kind of life changes it? Some people are fascinated by how precise this is. It resembles medicine, psychology, and ethics woven into one practice. The teaching also avoids hopelessness. Suffering is real, but it is not absolute. The mind is conditioned, but it is not helpless. That is the doorway. A human life can be studied, trained, and liberated. Right action matters because Dharma is lived, not merely believed. In many wisdom traditions, the great danger is thinking that understanding is the same as transformation. Dharma pushes against that illusion. A person may speak beautifully about compassion and still treat others carelessly. Someone may recite teachings and still be ruled by envy, fear, or vanity. Right action brings the teaching down to earth. It asks whether insight has changed behavior. This is where Dharma becomes difficult in the best possible way. It does not let a person hide behind intelligence. It does not reward spiritual decoration. It asks for conduct that can survive ordinary pressure. How do you act when no one is watching? How do you speak when anger is ready? How do you choose when advantage tempts you away from conscience? These questions reveal more than opinions ever could. Some people call this practical spirituality. Others might call it the real test. Dharma becomes real only when it passes through the body into action. Many Indian stories show Dharma through impossible moral choices. This is one reason the old epics feel so alive. They rarely present life as a clean classroom exercise. A character may have to choose between truth and kindness. A ruler may have to choose between family loyalty and public duty. A warrior may face a command that is lawful but morally troubling. These stories understand something profound about human life. The hardest decisions are not always between obvious good and obvious evil. They often happen when two serious obligations collide. That is where Dharma becomes subtle. It cannot be reduced to a slogan. It requires discernment under pressure. Some people are drawn to these tales because they feel almost encoded with hidden lessons. The surface story entertains. Beneath it, the listener is being trained to think morally. The question is not only what the hero does. The question is what we would do when certainty breaks. In that moment, Dharma becomes a mirror. The Mahabharata treats Dharma as subtle, difficult, and deeply human. This epic does not make righteousness easy. Its characters argue, fail, regret, swear vows, break under pressure, and face consequences that spread far beyond their intentions. That is why it remains so gripping. It does not present Dharma as a simple rule written on a wall. It presents it as something that must be discerned amid loyalty, ambition, injury, family history, and public duty. The famous phrase often associated with the epic is that Dharma is subtle. Anyone who has faced a serious moral dilemma understands that immediately. The right thing can be hidden beneath fear. The wrong thing can wear the clothing of honor. Some people see the Mahabharata as more than literature. They see it as a vast psychological map of civilization under strain. Every character carries a piece of the puzzle. No single person controls the meaning. The result is unsettling and magnificent. Dharma becomes the deepest question in a world that refuses simple answers. Krishna teaches that avoidance can sometimes betray one's deepest duty. This is one of the most provocative ideas in the Gita. Arjuna wants to step away from violence, grief, and terrible responsibility. On the surface, that sounds noble. Yet Krishna challenges him to look deeper. Is his refusal born from wisdom or from collapse? Is he renouncing action or fleeing the pain of his role? This matters because the teaching does not glorify aggression. It examines avoidance. Sometimes a person calls something peace because they are afraid of conflict. Sometimes they call something kindness because they do not want to disappoint anyone. Sometimes they call something spiritual because they do not want to face the cost of integrity. Krishna's challenge cuts through that fog. It asks whether the action being refused is actually one's dharma. Some people find this disturbing, and rightly so. It means the path may not always feel soothing. The deeper duty may demand steadiness when the personality wants escape. Yudhishthira becomes famous for struggling with truth and dharma. He is often remembered as a righteous king, but his greatness does not come from being simple. It comes from the burden of trying to remain truthful in a world where truth becomes complicated. His life is filled with tests. He must face gambling, exile, war, family disaster, and the consequences of decisions made under pressure. What makes him fascinating is that he is not portrayed as a flawless saint floating above events. He is a man carrying the weight of moral seriousness. His devotion to truth gives him dignity, but it also places him in terrible situations. The old stories seem to ask whether righteousness can survive contact with politics, humiliation, and grief. Some people are drawn to Yudhishthira because he feels painfully real. He wants Dharma, but he must learn that good intention alone is not enough. Wisdom requires judgment. Truth requires courage. Even the righteous must face the cost of being human. Rama is remembered as a model of Dharma under pressure. In the Ramayana, Rama's life is shaped by obedience, exile, kingship, loyalty, and painful sacrifice. He is not merely admired because he succeeds. He is remembered because he repeatedly tries to act according to Dharma when personal happiness would point elsewhere. That is the dramatic center of his story. A prince loses a kingdom and walks into the forest rather than break a promise made by his father. Later, the demands of rule place him under even harsher scrutiny. The fascination lies in the tension between ideal conduct and human feeling. A model of Dharma is not a person without sorrow. It is someone who treats duty as real, even when the heart is wounded. Some people see Rama as a divine figure. Others approach him as a moral archetype. Either way, his story asks a piercing question. What would a life look like if honor mattered more than comfort, status, or personal ease? Sita's story raises hard questions about justice and social duty. Her place in the Ramayana is powerful because it cannot be reduced to one lesson. She is associated with devotion, strength, endurance, and moral clarity. Yet her trials also trouble many listeners. The story forces us to ask, what happens when public expectations weigh against private truth? It asks whether society can demand proof from the innocent. It asks how a person preserves dignity when judged by forces outside their control. This makes Sita's story deeply important for modern audiences. It is not only about ancient ideals. It is about the cost of reputation, the burden placed on women, and the painful gap between justice and social order. Some people see her as a symbol of spiritual strength. Others read her story as a challenge to inherited assumptions. Both responses show the power of the narrative. Dharma here is not easy comfort. It becomes a difficult inquiry into suffering, honor, and the limits of duty. Buddhist Dharma does not require blind faith to begin. One of the striking features of early Buddhist teaching is its invitation to examine experience directly. The listener is not asked to accept a doctrine merely because it is old, impressive, or spoken by an authority. The path begins with observation. Notice suffering. Notice craving. Notice the mind's habits. Notice what happens when attention becomes steadier. This approach gives Buddhist Dharma a uniquely investigative quality. It feels less like being handed a sealed answer and more like being given a method. That is why it appeals to people who distrust official explanations. It says, in effect, look carefully and see what proves itself in living. Faith may grow, but it grows through practice, not through pressure. There is something quietly revolutionary in that. The teaching does not fear honest testing. It expects it. The laboratory is not hidden in a temple. It is the body, the breath, the mind, and the next moment of reaction. The Buddha compared his teaching to a raft for crossing. The image is practical, but the implication is startling. A raft is useful because it carries someone across dangerous water. Once the crossing is made, clinging to it would become absurd. This teaching warns against turning even wisdom into attachment. Doctrines, practices, and methods can help free the mind, but they can also become possessions of the ego. A person may begin by seeking liberation and end by defending their spiritual identity. The Buddha's comparison cuts through that. It asks whether a teaching is being used or worshipped as a trophy. Some people find this one of the most radical ideas in religion. The Dharma itself is not meant to become another chain. It is a vehicle. It serves awakening. The moment it becomes pride, it has been misunderstood. This is why the raft teaching feels so alive. It protects the path from hardening into a cage built out of sacred language. Dharma can be practiced through attention to one breath. There is something astonishing about this simplicity. A vast spiritual tradition can begin with something no one has to purchase, prove, or display. The breath is always intimate. It is bodily and subtle at the same time. When attention rests on it, the mind begins to reveal itself. Restlessness appears. Impatience appears. Memory interrupts. Plans demand attention. The practitioner discovers that the ordinary mind is not as obedient as it seemed. That discovery is already important. The breath becomes a training ground for seeing without immediately reacting. Some people compare this to tuning an instrument before music can be played. Others sense something more mysterious. The breath links conscious choice with an automatic life process that continues even when we forget it. To attend to it is to stand at a threshold. Dharma does not always begin with grand visions. Sometimes it begins with noticing the next inhalation and not running away from it. Karma and Dharma meet in the consequences of chosen action. Karma is often misunderstood as fate, but in many Indian traditions, it has more to do with action and its results. Dharma enters because it asks whether an action is aligned with what is right. Together, they form a powerful moral vision. Every choice matters because it helps shape future experience. Not only outward events, but also character. A dishonest action may produce advantage, yet it also trains the person to become more false. A generous action may cost something, yet it strengthens the capacity for freedom. This is where the teaching becomes gripping. The universe is not pictured as morally random. Action leaves marks. Some are visible. Others may unfold slowly through habit, relationship, memory, or future conditions. Some people hear in this a hidden law of moral cause and effect. Whether understood spiritually or psychologically, the insight is hard to ignore. We are not only doing things, we are becoming the kind of being who does them. Ancient teachers warned that good intentions still need wise understanding. This may be one of the most mature insights in Dharma traditions. Wanting to do good is not the same as knowing how to do good. A person can harm through ignorance while feeling completely sincere. They may offer help that creates dependency. They may speak truth without compassion. They may defend a principle without understanding the human cost. Dharma does not allow intention to become an excuse for carelessness. It asks for discernment. This is why wisdom and conduct are so often joined. The heart must be trained, but the mind must be clarified too. Some people find this challenging because it removes the comfort of self-image. It is not enough to say, "I meant well." The deeper question is whether one understood the situation clearly. In this way, Dharma becomes a safeguard against naive goodness. It teaches that compassion without insight can become confused, and insight without compassion can become cold. Dharma often asks for balance rather than rigid perfection. A rigid person may look disciplined from the outside, while being ruled by fear within. Dharma traditions often recognize this danger. The path is serious, but seriousness is not the same as harshness. Balance means knowing when to act and when to pause. It means honoring duty without becoming cruel. It means practicing restraint without despising the body. It means seeking truth without losing tenderness toward ordinary human struggle. This is not weakness. It may require more intelligence than extremism. Anyone can cling to a rule and stop thinking. It takes deeper awareness to apply a principle well. Some people are drawn to hidden teachings because they suspect the real path is finer than public slogans. Dharma often confirms that suspicion. The truth is not always found at the most dramatic edge. It may appear in the exact adjustment that prevents collapse. Balance is not spiritual laziness. It is the art of keeping life aligned under changing conditions. Monastic rules turn Dharma into daily habits of restraint. A monastery is not only a place of belief, it is a designed environment for training attention, speech, appetite, possessions, and conduct. Rules about roads, meals, speech, travel, money, and relationships may look restrictive from outside. Inside the system, they serve a purpose. They reduce distraction. They expose craving. They make the practitioner encounter the mind without its usual hiding places. This is fascinating because it shows Dharma becoming architecture. The day itself is shaped to support awakening. Nothing is too small to matter. How one eats, walks, speaks, receives, and cleans can become part of practice. Some people might see this as severe. Others see a brilliant technology for human transformation. Modern life often multiplies choices and then wonders why attention feels fractured. Monastic Dharma moves in the opposite direction. It removes excess so that the hidden movements of the mind become visible. Restraint is not the goal. It is the instrument. Lay people practice Dharma through generosity, honesty, and family responsibility. The householder path is crucial because most people do not live in monasteries. Dharma had to enter ordinary life or remain incomplete. For lay people, the path often appeared through ethical conduct, support for spiritual communities, care for relatives, truthful speech, and responsible work. This matters because it broadens the meaning of practice. A person feeding a child, keeping a promise, earning honestly, or giving without vanity may be participating in Dharma as seriously as someone in formal meditation. The drama is quieter, but the stakes are real. Daily life constantly tests character. Money tests greed. Family tests patience. Speech tests truthfulness. Responsibility tests endurance. Some people overlook this because they expect spirituality to look exotic. Dharma brings the spotlight back to the ordinary. It says, the home can be a training ground. The marketplace can reveal the soul. The person who lives rightly without applause may be doing something more difficult than they know. Meditation made Dharma something directly observed within experience. Without meditation, Dharma can remain an idea admired from a distance. With practice, it becomes something encountered in the moving texture of the mind. A person sits, watches, and discovers that thoughts arise without permission. Emotions change. Sensations appear and vanish. The self that seemed solid begins to look more like a process. This is where the teaching becomes experiential rather than theoretical. It is not just saying that things are impermanent. It is watching impermanence happen in real time. That can be strangely thrilling. The mind becomes both the instrument and the mystery being studied. Some people compare this to inner archaeology. Layer after layer appears, and many of them were shaping life unnoticed. Meditation gives Dharma its laboratory. It lets a practitioner test claims about suffering, craving, attention, and freedom within the field of direct awareness. The result is not mere calm. It is a different relationship to experience itself. The Dharma wheel became a symbol of teaching set in motion. A wheel moves, turns, carries, and continues beyond the first push. That is why the symbol is so effective. It suggests that a teaching can enter history and keep traveling through minds, communities, languages, and centuries. In Buddhism, the turning of the wheel often points to the Buddha's first teaching after awakening. From that moment, Dharma was no longer only realized by one person beneath a tree. It was shared. It began to move. The symbol also carries discipline. A wheel needs a center. It needs balance. It needs structure. Without those, it breaks or turns badly. Some people are fascinated by sacred symbols because they seem to compress large systems into simple forms. The Dharma wheel does exactly that. It holds movement and stability together. It reminds the listener that wisdom is not meant to remain private. Once seen clearly, it seeks expression. It rolls outward into the world. 8 spokes often represent the Noble Eightfold Path in Buddhism. The number matters because the path is not reduced to a single practice. It includes understanding, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. These are not random parts. They show that liberation requires the whole person to be trained. What someone believes matters. What someone says matters. How someone earns a living matters. The quality of attention matters. This makes the path difficult to fake. A person cannot meditate deeply while using speech carelessly and call the work complete. Nor can they behave politely while refusing to examine the mind. The spokes belong to one wheel. Some people find this structure almost like an ancient operating system for human transformation. Each part corrects the others. Ethics keeps concentration from becoming self-absorption. Wisdom keeps morality from becoming rigid pride. Effort keeps insight from remaining passive. The Eightfold Path is fascinating because it refuses fragmentation. It asks for a life that turns as one. Dharma can mean reality itself in many Buddhist schools. This meaning changes everything. Dharma is not only a teaching about how to live, it can also refer to the way things are. In some Buddhist contexts, to understand Dharma is to understand reality at a level deeper than ordinary assumption. The world we experience appears solid, separate, and permanent. Yet careful observation suggests constant change, dependence, and mental construction. This is where Buddhist philosophy becomes breathtaking. It does not simply tell people to behave better. It asks whether the world they think they inhabit has been misunderstood from the beginning. Some people are drawn to that because it feels almost like a spiritual version of pulling back the curtain. The most familiar things become questionable. A thought, a sound, a body, a feeling, a self, and a moment are no longer taken for granted. Dharma becomes the investigation of existence itself. The path is not escape from reality. It is awakening to reality without distortion. Some Buddhist texts call all phenomena dharmas to study experience closely. Here the word becomes astonishingly precise. A sight, a sound, a feeling, a memory, an intention, or a moment of attention can be treated as something to examine. The point is not to make life dry or technical. The point is to break experience into observable events, so the illusion of solidity begins to loosen. Instead of saying, "I am angry," a practitioner may learn to notice heat, thought, tightening, memory, and impulse. That shift matters. The self is no longer swallowed by the state. The experience becomes knowable. Some people find this almost like a microscope turned inward. The ancient analysts of mind were mapping experience before modern psychology had its language. They watched how moments arise and pass. They noticed patterns that usually remain invisible because life moves too quickly. Calling phenomena dharmas was a way to study reality at close range. The ordinary moment became a field of investigation. Theravada traditions preserve Dharma through the ancient Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is one of the great textual treasures of world religion. It contains discourses, monastic rules, and deep analytical teachings preserved by Theravada communities across centuries. What makes it remarkable is not only its age. It is the sense of proximity it gives to early Buddhist concerns. The texts return again and again to suffering, discipline, meditation, ethical conduct, and liberation. They are practical, repetitive, exacting, and often surprisingly direct. Some people imagine ancient scripture as distant and ceremonial. The Pali Canon can feel more like a training manual for waking up. It records conversations with monks, rulers, wanderers, householders, skeptics, and seekers. The teaching moves through forests, towns, roads, and assembly halls. This gives it a living quality. It is not merely a book on a shelf. It is a preserved world of questions. Through it, Theravada Dharma carries an old voice into the present. Mahayana traditions expanded Dharma through compassion for all beings. Mahayana Buddhism introduced a vast ideal that changed the emotional scale of the path. The practitioner does not seek freedom only for themselves. They cultivate the aspiration to help all beings awaken. This is the Bodhisattva vision, and it is one of the most powerful ideas in religious history. Personal liberation remains important, but it is placed inside a larger vow of compassion. That changes the meaning of wisdom. Seeing clearly is not enough if the heart remains small. The suffering of others becomes part of the path. Some people find this almost unbelievable in its scope. The mind is asked to care beyond preference, tribe, reward, and convenience. Mahayana texts often stretch imagination to make compassion feel limitless. Yet the practice begins close at hand. How does one respond to irritation? How does one meet another person's pain? The vast vow becomes real in the next act of mercy. Zen often points to Dharma beyond words and concepts. Zen is fascinating because it treats language with both respect and suspicion. Words can guide, but they can also trap. Concepts can clarify, but they can also replace direct seeing. Zen stories often show teachers interrupting ordinary thought with strange replies, silence, sudden gestures, or impossible seeming exchanges. The point is not randomness. It is to break the mind's addiction to explanation. A person may think they understand Dharma because they can describe it. Zen asks whether they can see before the description forms. This gives the tradition its sharp and surprising character. Some people are attracted to Zen because it feels like a secret hidden in plain sight. The answer is not far away, yet the thinking mind keeps stepping over it. A cup is lifted. A door closes. A bell rings. The ordinary moment becomes an entrance. Zen does not reject wisdom. It challenges the habit of mistaking commentary for awakening. Tibetan Buddhism organizes Dharma through powerful systems of training. Tibetan traditions are famous for their depth, structure, and intensity. They preserve philosophical study, ritual practice, meditation, visualization, chanting, debate, ethics, and teacher-student transmission within highly developed paths. To an outsider, this can look complex. Within the tradition, the complexity is often meant to guide different capacities and stages of development. The mind is trained through image, sound, reasoning, devotion, and direct contemplation. This gives Tibetan Dharma a distinctive force. It does not rely on only one doorway. It surrounds the practitioner with methods meant to transform perception itself. Some people are drawn to its mystery because it seems to operate like a complete inner science. Symbols become maps. Ritual becomes training. Compassion becomes discipline. Death itself becomes a subject for preparation. Whether one approaches it as faith, philosophy, or psychology, Tibetan Buddhism shows how elaborate Dharma can become when a culture devotes centuries to the art of awakening. Nalanda became a legendary university for Dharma and philosophy. For centuries, Nalanda was one of the great centers of learning in Asia. It drew students and teachers into a world where Buddhist thought, logic, grammar, medicine, metaphysics, and meditation could be studied with astonishing seriousness. This matters because it challenges a lazy assumption about ancient spirituality. Dharma was not always anti-intellectual or vague. At Nalanda, it became rigorous. Monks studied arguments. They tested ideas. They preserved texts. They trained memory and reasoning. The place became famous enough that pilgrims traveled great distances to learn there. Some people are fascinated by Nalanda because it feels like a lost engine of knowledge. Imagine a vast institution where the goal of study was not merely career advancement, but liberation from confusion. That combination is electrifying. Learning was not separated from transformation. Philosophy was not a hobby. It was part of a disciplined attempt to understand mind, reality, suffering, and freedom at the highest level. Debate was once a major method of refining Dharma understanding. In several Buddhist traditions, debate was not treated as rude argument. It was a training method. A student had to defend a view, answer objections, expose contradictions, and sharpen understanding under pressure. This matters because it shows that Dharma was not only transmitted through silence or devotion, it was also forged in disciplined intellectual combat. A weak idea could not survive long in a serious debate courtyard. The purpose was not victory for the ego. The purpose was clarity. When used properly, debate reveals where a person has memorized words without understanding them. It shows where emotion is hiding inside belief. Some people find this thrilling because it overturns the idea that spirituality must avoid hard questions. In these settings, hard questions were the point. The mind was trained to become precise. Confusion was not comforted. It was investigated. Dharma understanding became stronger because it had to withstand challenge. Logic and meditation both serve Dharma in Buddhist monasteries. This pairing surprises many people. They imagine meditation as inward and logic as analytical, as though the two must oppose each other. Buddhist monasteries often brought them together. Meditation examined experience directly. Logic tested the concepts used to understand that experience. One without the other could become unbalanced. Meditation without clear thinking might drift into fantasy. Logic without practice might become sterile cleverness. Together, they created a powerful method. The practitioner learned to watch the mind, then question the assumptions that shaped what was seen. This is one reason Buddhist philosophy became so sophisticated. It did not treat awakening as a vague mood. It wanted to know how perception works, how error arises, and how language shapes reality. Some people hear in this an ancient challenge to modern categories. Is spirituality emotional, rational, mystical, or practical? In Dharma training, those divisions can dissolve. The whole person becomes involved in the work of seeing clearly. Dharma traveled from India across Asia through translation and devotion. The journey of Dharma was not a simple movement of books from one land to another. It crossed mountains, deserts, trade routes, royal courts, monasteries, and village shrines. Every crossing changed the way people heard it. Indian words had to become Chinese concepts. Chinese interpretations later shaped Korean and Japanese forms. Central Asian translators carried ideas through places that often feel almost forgotten today. This is where the story becomes astonishing. A teaching born in one cultural world entered many others without remaining frozen. It adapted, but it did not disappear. Devotees memorized it. Scholars debated it. Travelers risked difficult roads to find clearer versions of it. Some people look at this spread and sense a hidden map of ancient connection. The transmission of Dharma became one of history's great networks of meaning. It moved not through conquest alone, but through longing. People carried it because they believed it could change suffering into understanding. Chinese thinkers connected Dharma with their own language of harmony. When Buddhist teachings entered China, they met a civilization that already had deep ideas about order, virtue, family, nature, and the way. Translation was not just linguistic. It was philosophical. Indian concepts had to pass through Chinese patterns of thought. This created a powerful encounter. Dharma could be understood alongside ideas of balance, moral cultivation, and the unseen order that shapes life. The result was not a simple copy of Indian Buddhism. It became something new. Chinese monks, scholars, and practitioners asked how emptiness, compassion, meditation, and awakening could be expressed through their own cultural intelligence. Some people find this fascinating because it shows wisdom changing form without losing force. A teaching enters a new world and begins speaking with a different accent. The deeper mystery is that the human questions remained recognizable. How does one live rightly? How does the mind become clear? How does suffering loosen its grip? China answered in its own voice. Japanese Buddhism gave Dharma new forms through Zen, Pure Land, and Nichiren. In Japan, Dharma developed into strikingly different paths that all aimed at transformation. Zen emphasized direct seeing and disciplined practice. Pure Land Buddhism placed trust in the vow of Amida Buddha. Nichiren Buddhism centered devotion around the Lotus Sutra with extraordinary intensity. These were not minor variations. They were different doors into the same immense concern. How can ordinary people awaken, endure suffering, and live with meaning? Japan gave these questions forms that shaped art, ritual, politics, poetry, gardens, martial discipline, and household devotion. The fascinating part is how distinct the paths became. One tradition could point towards silent seeking. Another could call the heart toward faith. Another could concentrate sacred power into repeated devotion. Some people see this as evidence that Dharma behaves almost like water. It takes the shape of a vessel while keeping its depth. In Japan, that depth entered culture so completely that practice and daily aesthetics often became inseparable. Sri Lankan traditions helped preserve some of the oldest Buddhist Dharma texts. Sri Lanka holds a crucial place in the memory of Buddhism. Theravada communities there preserved the Pali tradition with remarkable care across centuries of change. The island became a sanctuary for teachings that might otherwise have been lost to war, decay, or shifting political fortune. This matters because religious history is fragile. A single broken lineage can erase a library of memory. A failed transmission can silence a whole way of practice. In Sri Lanka, recitation, commentary, monastic discipline, and royal support helped protect a stream of Dharma that remains influential today. Some people find this almost cinematic. Imagine teachings moving across the sea, taking root on an island, and surviving long enough to speak to the modern world. The old texts are not just historical artifacts. They are preserved instructions for training perception and conduct. Through Sri Lanka, an ancient voice was not merely remembered. It was kept usable. Dharma influenced art through stupas, temples, sculpture, and sacred diagrams. When Dharma entered art, it did more than decorate religious spaces. It changed how people could approach invisible ideas. A stupa could make memory physical. A temple could organize space around sacred meaning. A statue could give devotion a face. A diagram could turn the structure of awakening into something the eye could follow. This is why Dharma art often feels layered. It is not only beautiful, it teaches through form. The body of a Buddha, the posture of a bodhisattva, the shape of a monument, and the layout of a sacred image all carry instruction. Some people are drawn to this because symbols can feel like messages from a deeper code. They seem to speak before words arrive. Whether one sees them as devotional tools or psychological maps, their power is real. Dharma became visible through human hands. It entered stone, paint, metal, cloth, and space, so the mind could learn by looking. The lotus became linked with Dharma because awakening can rise from difficulty. The symbol is famous for a reason. A lotus grows from muddy water, yet its bloom appears clean and radiant above the surface. In Dharma traditions, this became a powerful way to understand spiritual development. The problem is not that life contains confusion. The problem is not knowing how to grow through it. The mud is not denied. It is part of the condition that makes the flower possible. This gives the symbol more strength than simple optimism. It does not pretend suffering is pleasant. It suggests that transformation can emerge from the very place where a person feels trapped. Some people see in the lotus a kind of hidden law. The low condition does not decide the final form. Desire, grief, fear, and ignorance can become the ground for awakening when met correctly. That is why the lotus appears across Buddhist and Indian art. It says the path does not begin above life. It begins within it. Mantras in Dharma traditions train attention through sound and repetition. A mantra is not merely a phrase repeated for comfort. In many traditions, it is treated as a disciplined use of sound, breath, memory, and intention. Repetition gathers the scattered mind. The voice becomes steady. The body begins to follow rhythm. The meaning of the words may be important, but the practice also works through vibration, focus, and devotion. This is where it becomes fascinating for people drawn to hidden dimensions of experience. Sound is invisible, yet it changes the nervous system, the mood, and the atmosphere of attention. Ancient practitioners treated this seriously. A mantra could protect the mind from distraction. It could open reverence. It could bind the practitioner to a lineage of practice older than personal memory. Some hear only repetition. Others hear a technology of consciousness. Dharma traditions understood that the mind is not trained only by ideas. It is also trained by what it repeats with care. Ritual can make Dharma visible through the movements of daily life. Modern people often dismiss ritual as empty performance, but that judgment can miss the point. A ritual gives shape to meaning. It teaches the body what the mind may not yet understand. Bowing can train humility. Lighting a lamp can mark attention. Offering food can weaken possessiveness. Washing, chanting, walking, or sitting in a prescribed way can turn ordinary movement into deliberate awareness. The key is not the outer form alone. The key is what the form trains. Dharma traditions often use ritual to bring invisible values into time, space, and action. Some people are fascinated by this because it suggests that ancient cultures knew something modern life forgets. Humans are not changed by information alone. We are shaped by repeated gestures. A life without rituals still has rituals, but they may be unconscious ones. Dharma makes the pattern intentional. It asks the body to participate in wisdom. Pilgrimage turns Dharma into learning through place and memory. A pilgrim does not only study an idea. A pilgrim moves toward a location where meaning has gathered over time. The road becomes part of the teaching. Fatigue, uncertainty, discomfort, anticipation, and reverence all begin to work on the mind. Sacred places in Dharma traditions are not treated as ordinary scenery. They become witnesses. A site where a teacher lived, taught, awakened, or passed away can draw people across enormous distances. This can sound strange until one remembers how deeply memory attaches to place. A room can hold grief. A battlefield can hold history. A shrine can hold devotion. Pilgrimage uses that human sensitivity and turns it toward transformation. Some people sense that sacred geography preserves a kind of spiritual charge. Others understand it through discipline and memory. Either way, pilgrimage changes learning. The teaching is no longer only heard. It is approached step by step, through the body, across the earth. Bodh Gaya became sacred because awakening there changed world religion. The place is revered because the Buddha is said to have awakened there beneath the Bodhi tree. That single event became a turning point in the spiritual history of Asia and eventually the world. What happened there was not a military victory, a royal decree, or the founding of an empire. It was an inner realization. Yet its consequences traveled farther than many armies. Teachings that began from that awakening shaped ethics, psychology, meditation, art, philosophy, and monastic life across continents. This is what makes Bodh Gaya so compelling. A quiet event in one human consciousness became a global force. Some people look at the site and wonder what kind of transformation could radiate so widely through time. The mystery is not only historical, it is personal. The story suggests that the deepest revolutions may begin when no crowd is watching. One mind sees clearly, and the world is never quite the same. Sarnath is remembered as the place where Dharma was first taught. After awakening, the Buddha did not remain silent. At Sarnath, he gave the teaching that began the public life of Buddhism. This moment is often described as the turning of the wheel. The phrase matters because the teaching moved from realization into communication. Something seen inwardly had to be shaped into words others could follow. That is an extraordinary transition. Many people have experiences they cannot explain. The Buddha's genius included the ability to turn insight into a path. Sarnath therefore becomes more than a location. It marks the birth of a shared discipline. A small group of listeners became the beginning of a community. From there, teaching, practice, memory, debate, and devotion spread outward. Some people find this almost unbelievable in its scale. A conversation in a deer park became one of humanity's enduring spiritual inheritances. Sarnath reminds us that truth changes history only when it becomes teachable. Varanasi shaped generations of Dharma learning and Hindu practice. Few cities carry spiritual continuity like Varanasi. It has long been associated with learning, ritual, death, devotion, philosophy, and the search for liberation. The city matters because it shows Dharma as a lived atmosphere, not only an idea. Teachers taught there, pilgrims arrived there, families performed rites there. Seekers came to confront questions that ordinary life often postpones. Varanasi also holds a powerful tension. It is intensely worldly and intensely sacred at the same time. Noise, trade, ceremony, scholarship, grief, and prayer meet in the same streets. Some people are drawn to the city because it feels like a threshold. Life does not hide its impermanence there. The closeness of death becomes part of the instruction. For Hindu practice, Varanasi has often represented the possibility that place, ritual, memory, and longing can converge. It is not merely a city with religious sites. It is a city that teaches by existing. The Ganges became linked with Dharma through purity, memory, and devotion. For countless people, the Ganges is not simply a river. It is a sacred presence woven into religious imagination and daily practice. Its waters are associated with cleansing, blessing, ancestral rites, pilgrimage, and the hope of spiritual merit. This connection reveals something profound about Dharma traditions. Nature is not always treated as a neutral backdrop. A river can become part of the moral and spiritual world. It can carry memory. It can hold devotion. It can mark transitions between life stages. Some people hear this and wonder whether ancient cultures perceived landscapes in ways modern life has forgotten. A sacred river is not only water with beliefs added to it. It becomes a living participant in how people understand duty, grief, purification, and release. The fascination is that the Ganges joins the ordinary and the ultimate. People bathe, pray, mourn, travel, and remember beside it. The river carries more than water. It carries meaning. Dharma can guide politics without becoming ordinary political ambition. This is a difficult possibility, and that is why it is so interesting. Politics usually deals with power, compromise, strategy, and public pressure. Dharma asks about justice, restraint, responsibility, and the moral health of society. The challenge is bringing these together without turning wisdom into a slogan. When political action is guided by Dharma, The aim should not be domination dressed as righteousness. It should be the protection of conditions that allow life to flourish. That includes truthfulness, fairness, care for the vulnerable, and limits on greed. Some people are skeptical, and for good reason. Sacred language can be misused by those who want authority. Yet Dharma also gives a standard by which authority can be judged. It asks whether public action serves the common good or merely feeds ambition. That question is explosive. It means politics is never only about who wins. It is about what kind of order victory creates. Ashoka's edicts promoted mercy, restraint, and respect across communities. Carved into stone, these messages carried an unusual kind of royal voice. They did not simply celebrate conquest or wealth. They urged moral seriousness. They encouraged care for living beings, respect between religious groups, obedience to parents, fairness, and moderation. Of course, an emperor's words must always be read carefully. Power knows how to present itself beautifully. Yet the edicts remain remarkable because they show ethical language projected across a vast realm. The ruler wanted Dharma to be seen, heard, and remembered by people who would never meet him. Some people find this deeply intriguing. It is almost as if stone became an ancient broadcast system for moral instruction. The empire spoke through inscriptions rather than screens. The message was not entertainment. It was conduct. Ashoka's example leaves us with a strange question. What happens when a state tries to make conscience public? It may inspire, control, reform, or perform. Perhaps it does all at once. Ancient law books treated Dharma as social order and moral conduct. In this setting, Dharma entered the world of rules, duties, inheritance, punishment, ritual obligation, family structure, and public behavior. This can feel very different from meditation or mystical awakening. Yet it shows another side of the tradition. People needed guidance not only for inner life, but for society. How should property pass? How should disputes be handled? What does a person owe to parents, teachers, guests, rulers, and the sacred? The law books attempted to answer such questions through a Dharma lens. Some of their ideas are debated sharply today, and many belong to worlds very different from ours. Still, the larger point is fascinating. Dharma was not confined to private spirituality. It entered the machinery of civilization. It tried to organize human life around a moral order. Whether one admires or critiques those texts, they reveal a huge ambition. The aim was to connect daily conduct with a structure larger than preference. Dharmasastra texts tried to map duty across many human situations. These works can be understood as attempts to chart the obligations of life in extraordinary detail. They address stages of life, social roles, ritual duties, ethical behavior, legal questions, and the consequences of conduct. The project itself is remarkable. It assumes that human existence is morally patterned and that wise living requires careful navigation. The texts do not always match modern values, and they have been interpreted in many ways across time. Yet their ambition remains fascinating. They try to place the complexity of life into a Dharma framework. A birth, a meal, a marriage, a dispute, a debt, a funeral, and a vow could all become part of a meaningful order. Some people see such systems as restrictive. Others see them as evidence of a culture obsessed with the spiritual weight of ordinary life. The deeper question is haunting. Can duty ever be fully mapped, or does life always exceed the map? Critics also challenge Dharma when custom harmed compassion. This is important because Dharma was never only a static inheritance. Across history, people argued about what it truly required. When social custom caused suffering, reformers, saints, poets, philosophers, and ordinary believers could appeal to a deeper moral vision. They could ask whether a rule still served truth. They could ask whether authority had confused habit with righteousness. This gives Dharma an inner tension that keeps it alive. It can preserve tradition, but it can also judge tradition. That is one of its most powerful features. Some people are drawn to the idea that hidden beneath official religion, there is often a more radical current. Dharma contains that possibility. It asks whether conduct supports life, clarity, and justice. If it does not, then the label of tradition is not enough. This makes the subject far more dynamic than outsiders sometimes imagine. The real battle is not between old and new. It is between living truth and dead habit. Reformers used Dharma to argue for justice and human dignity. In modern times, Dharma has often been invoked not only to preserve inherited ways, but to challenge cruelty and exclusion. Thinkers and activists have drawn from it to argue that society must be measured by moral seriousness. They are asked whether any order can be righteous if it humiliates human beings. This turns Dharma into a language of conscience. It does not belong only to temples or scriptures. It can enter courts, schools, public movements, and personal protest. The fascinating part is how an ancient concept can become a force for renewal. Some people assume old wisdom only looks backward. Dharma often refuses that limitation. It can ask the present to become more honest. It can expose hypocrisy in systems that claim virtue while producing harm. In this form, Dharma becomes dangerous to comfortable injustice. It reminds society that order without dignity is not true order. It is only arrangement defended by power. Gandhi drew from Dharma when he made truth a public force. For Gandhi, truth was not merely an opinion held in private. It had to be lived, tested, and brought into public action. His use of nonviolence was tied to discipline, self-scrutiny, sacrifice, and the belief that moral force could confront political power. This approach drew from many streams, but Dharma helped shape the sense that action must answer to conscience. The remarkable thing is that truth became strategic without becoming only strategy. Marches, fasts, vows, and civil resistance were meant to awaken both the oppressed and the oppressor. Some people see this as idealistic. Others see it as one of the most audacious experiments in modern politics. Gandhi tried to show that moral authority could disturb an empire. The method depended on visible suffering, disciplined restraint, and refusal to cooperate with injustice. Dharma entered history here not as a private doctrine, but as pressure applied to the machinery of domination. Nonviolence became a political instrument through deeply spiritual discipline. Nonviolence is often misunderstood as passivity. In Dharma-inspired movements, it can become a demanding form of action. The person refusing violence must train fear, anger, pride, speech, and the instinct to retaliate. That is why it can be more difficult than aggression. Anyone can lash out when provoked. It takes tremendous discipline to resist harm without becoming inwardly consumed by hatred. When used politically, this discipline can reveal the violence hidden inside an unjust system. The oppressor expects either submission or counterattack. Nonviolence offers something harder to control. It exposes conscience in public. Some people are fascinated by this because it feels almost like moral judo. The force of the opponent is made visible without being copied. Yet the method only works when rooted in serious training. Without inner discipline, it becomes a slogan. With discipline, it can change the emotional field of history. That is why it still commands attention. Ambedkar turned to Buddhist Dharma as a path of liberation. B.R. Ambedkar's turn to Buddhism was not a casual religious preference. It was a profound act of social and spiritual meaning. He saw in Buddhist Dharma a path that could affirm dignity and challenge oppressive hierarchy. For many who followed him, conversion became a declaration that human worth could not be denied by inherited status. This is one of the most powerful modern chapters in Dharma history. Buddhism became not only a path of inner awakening, but a vehicle for collective self-respect. Some people find this moment electrifying because it shows an ancient teaching being used to break modern chains. Ambedkar did not treat Dharma as an escape from society's wounds. He brought it directly to them. The suffering addressed was not only personal craving, it was humiliation, exclusion, and structural injustice. In his hands, Dharma became a language of freedom. It asked whether liberation could be real while human beings were degraded. Modern yoga often inherits Dharma ideas without explaining their depth. Many people today encounter yoga as stretching, fitness, or stress relief. That is only a thin surface of a much larger inheritance. Behind the postures are older questions about discipline, attention, ethical restraint, breath, self-knowledge, and liberation. Dharma is part of the background that gives these practices moral and spiritual seriousness. Without that depth, yoga can become another product for self-optimization. With it, the practice becomes a way of examining how one lives. This does not mean every class must become a lecture. It means the roots matter. Some people are surprised to discover that ancient yoga was not designed merely to make the body attractive or relaxed. It was connected to the transformation of consciousness. The body was involved because human beings are embodied. Breath was involved because the mind follows it. Conduct was involved because practice without ethics can strengthen the ego. Dharma reminds modern yoga that flexibility is not the final goal. The idea of swadharma means one's own rightful path of action. This teaching is powerful because it refuses imitation. A person's deepest duty may not look impressive from the outside. It may not match another person's calling. It may not win public admiration. Swadharma asks what action truly belongs to one's nature, role, capacity, and circumstance. That can be liberating, but it can also be uncomfortable. It removes the fantasy of borrowing someone else's destiny. In the Gita, this idea carries serious weight. Better to live one's own dharma imperfectly than to perform another's with polished skill. Some people find that shocking because modern culture trains constant comparison. We watch other lives and mistake their path for proof that ours is wrong. Swadharma cuts through that noise. It says the question is not who looks successful. The question is what you are actually called to do. A borrowed life may be elegant, but it can still be false. Choosing another person's path can become a form of spiritual confusion. Imitation is tempting because it looks safer than discernment. Someone else's life has visible signs. Their role, success, discipline, or reputation can become a model that promises certainty. Yet Dharma traditions warn that another person's path may be poison when swallowed as one's own. The danger is subtle. A person can perform holiness, ambition, service, or renunciation while avoiding the truth of their own situation. They may adopt a costume of meaning instead of facing the work that actually belongs to them. Some people are fascinated by this because it explains a strange modern sickness. We are surrounded by templates for living, yet many feel more lost than ever. Dharma suggests that confusion grows when comparison replaces conscience. The right path is not always glamorous. It may be local, demanding, and deeply unmarketable, yet it has a different energy. It fits the soul's actual work. That fit cannot be faked for long. Dharma does not always mean doing what feels peaceful. This is one of its hardest lessons. People often confuse the right path with the path that creates immediate calm. Yet conscience may disturb us before it steadies us. Telling the truth can feel frightening. Protecting someone vulnerable can create conflict. Leaving a harmful pattern can bring grief before relief. Dharma is not the same as emotional comfort. It points toward rightness, and rightness sometimes passes through discomfort. This matters because spiritual language can be used to avoid hard things. A person may say they are choosing peace when they are really choosing silence. They may call their withdrawal wisdom when it is fear. Some people find this insight almost dangerous because it strips away comforting illusions. The body may tremble and still be moving toward integrity. The mind may resist and still know what must be done. Dharma does not worship tension, but it does not bow to comfort either. Sometimes Dharma requires courage when comfort recommends silence. There are moments when silence protects dignity. There are also moments when silence protects falsehood. Dharma asks for the discernment to know the difference. This is where courage becomes spiritual. Speaking at the right time may cost approval, safety, status, or belonging. Yet failing to speak may allow harm to continue. The drama is not always public. It can happen in a family conversation, a workplace decision, a friendship, or the privacy of one's own conscience. Comfort often gives reasonable advice. Stay out of it. Keep things easy. Do not risk the peace. Dharma may answer with a deeper demand. Some people are drawn to this because it reveals that wisdom is not passive. It may require a person to stand where the crowd prefers fog. The fascinating part is that courage here is not noise. It is alignment under pressure. The voice does not have to be loud. It has to be true. A difficult duty can become clearer when ego grows quieter. Ego often enters a dilemma wearing many masks. It may appear as pride, fear, resentment, self-pity, or the need to be seen as righteous. While it is loud, the path looks more confusing than it really is. Dharma traditions repeatedly point toward inner quieting because the mind must become trustworthy before judgment becomes clear. This does not mean emotion is useless. It means emotion must be understood before it is obeyed. When ego softens, certain questions change. What serves truth here? What protects life? What is being avoided? What would remain right, even without applause? Some people find this process almost like clearing static from a signal. The duty was not absent. It was covered by personal noise. This is why practices of restraint, meditation, prayer, and self-examination matter. They do not solve every problem automatically. They make it harder for the false self to impersonate wisdom. Desire is not always rejected, but it must be understood. Dharma traditions are often mistaken for simple desire denial. The reality is more interesting. Desire can bind, motivate, distort, reveal, or educate. The problem is not merely wanting. The problem is being ruled by wanting without seeing its nature. A desire may point toward a real need. It may also conceal fear, loneliness, vanity, or habit. It may promise freedom while creating dependence. Dharma asks the practitioner to study desire before obeying it or crushing it. This is a more subtle path than repression. It treats desire as information, but not as a master. Some people find this deeply useful because modern life is built to stimulate wanting constantly. Screens, markets, status games, and endless comparison keep the appetite awake. Dharma interrupts the spell. It asks what the desire costs. It asks who benefits from it. It asks whether the self becomes clearer or more fragmented after feeding it. The Gita teaches action without clinging to personal reward. This teaching is famous because it speaks directly to ambition, anxiety, and disappointment. The instruction is not to become lazy or indifferent. It is to act with full commitment while releasing obsession with the outcome. That is a difficult balance. Most people tie their identity to results. Success inflates them. Failure crushes them. Praise directs them. Criticism unsettles them. The Gita offers another way. Do the action that is yours to do, but do not hand your soul to the fruit of action. Some people hear this as one of the greatest psychological teachings ever given. It does not remove effort. It purifies effort. Work becomes steadier when it is not constantly feeding the ego's hunger. This has enormous relevance now. Creative work, family duty, public service, and private discipline all become less tortured when the result is not worshipped. The person still acts. They simply stop making reward into their God. Detachment in Dharma is not indifference to the world. This is one of the most misunderstood teachings in spiritual life. Detachment does not mean becoming cold, distant, or untouched by human suffering. It means loosening the grip of possessiveness, panic, and ego around what happens. A detached person can love deeply without trying to control the beloved. They can work sincerely without making the result into their identity. They can grieve without turning grief into the whole truth of existence. That difference matters. Indifference closes the heart. Detachment frees the heart from desperate clinging. Some people hear this and realize how radical it is. Most of what we call care is often mixed with fear. We want people to be safe, but we also want reality to obey us. Dharma asks for a cleaner form of involvement. Act, serve, protect, speak, love. But do not chain your peace to the demand that life unfold exactly as your anxious mind prefers. Compassion turns Dharma from private improvement into shared responsibility. A person can practice discipline for selfish reasons. They can meditate to become impressive. They can study wisdom to feel superior. They can speak of peace while ignoring the pain around them. Compassion interrupts that failure. It forces the path to open outward. In Dharma traditions, the suffering of others is not a distraction from spiritual life. It is one of its great tests. The question becomes simple and demanding. Has practice made the heart more available? This is why Dharma stops being a private project of self-polishing. It becomes responsibility toward living beings. Some people find this especially powerful because it challenges the modern obsession with personal optimization. A clearer mind is not the final proof of wisdom. A calmer voice is not enough. The proof appears in response. Do we notice the frightened person? Do we soften toward the difficult one? Do we use our strength to reduce harm? Compassion makes awakening accountable. Wisdom without conduct is considered incomplete in many Dharma traditions. Brilliant ideas can leave a person unchanged. That is the danger Dharma sees clearly. Someone may understand impermanence and still behave greedily. Someone may speak about unity and still exploit others. Someone may admire nonviolence while wounding people through speech. In many Dharma traditions, insight must be tested through conduct because behavior reveals what the mind has actually absorbed. This makes the path wonderfully hard to fake. A teaching has not fully entered you until it changes how you act under pressure. That includes small moments, the way you handle irritation, the way you treat someone who cannot benefit you, the way you respond when your pride is touched. Some people find this almost uncomfortable because it removes the glamour from spiritual knowledge. The real examination is not held in public debate or private fantasy. It happens in ordinary contact with life. Dharma asks whether wisdom has become character or merely decoration for the mind. Dharma can be tested in how someone treats the powerless. Power reveals what a person truly believes. It is easy to appear kind when dealing with someone who can reward us, impress us, or damage our reputation. The deeper test comes when the other person has no leverage. A child, a servant, a stranger, an animal, a defeated opponent, someone poor, dependent, ignored, or inconvenient. Dharma traditions repeatedly return to this moral pressure point because it exposes hidden character. A person may talk about truth, but their behavior toward the vulnerable tells another story. This is where the teaching becomes frighteningly practical. The powerless cannot force our goodness. They can only reveal whether goodness is real. Some people are drawn to this idea because it cuts through public performance. Status, ritual, vocabulary, and reputation fall away. What remains is conduct when no worldly advantage is at stake. Dharma asks whether the strong become protectors or predators. That question is as ancient as kingship and as current as today. Speech becomes Dharma when truth is joined with care. Words can heal, deceive, sharpen, confuse, protect, or destroy. Dharma traditions pay close attention to speech because it is action moving through sound. Truth alone is not always enough. A person can speak accurately and still speak cruelly. Care alone is not enough either. A person can sound kind while avoiding what must be said. The discipline is to join truth with timing, intention, and responsibility. This makes speech one of the most difficult practices. Every conversation becomes a field of training. Are the words necessary? Are they honest? Are they meant to serve clarity or to punish? Some people are fascinated by how seriously ancient traditions treated language. They understood that words shape inner weather and social reality. A promise can bind a life. A rumor can damage a family. A blessing can steady a frightened heart. Dharma asks the tongue to become accountable. Speech is not small. It is karma made audible. Anger loses authority when Dharma asks what it protects. Anger often arrives with the feeling of certainty. It tells us it is righteous. It tells us it sees clearly. It tells us delay would be weakness. Dharma does not deny that anger can point toward something important. It may reveal a boundary, an injustice, or a wound that has been ignored. But it also asks a deeper question. What is this anger guarding? Sometimes it protects dignity. Sometimes it protects pride. Sometimes it protects fear dressed as principle. Sometimes it protects a story we are not ready to question. That inquiry changes everything. The emotion is no longer the king. It becomes evidence to examine. Some people find this powerful because anger can feel like possession. It narrows the world until only reaction seems real. Dharma creates a gap. In that gap, energy can become courage instead of damage. The fire is not worshipped. It is understood, purified, and directed toward what is actually worth protecting. Patience is treated as strength because reaction narrows understanding. Most people think of patience as passive waiting, Dharma gives it more force. Patience is the ability to remain present without being conquered by the first impulse. That is a rare strength. Reaction makes the world smaller. It grabs one piece of the situation and declares it complete. Patience allows more information to arrive. It lets emotion settle enough for discernment to appear. This is why patience matters in conflict, grief, study, meditation, and leadership. The person who can wait without collapsing has access to a wider intelligence. Some people find this fascinating because it reverses the usual idea of power. The loudest person may be the least free. The quickest reply may be the least wise. Patience does not mean tolerating harm forever. It means refusing to let panic decide the meaning of the moment. Dharma honors patience because it protects the mind from becoming a servant of heat, speed, and wounded pride. Generosity weakens the illusion that the self is separate. Giving is not only a moral gesture. It can be a direct challenge to the ego's version of reality. The ego says, "This is mine." The ego says, "I must hold more to become safe." The ego says, "Another person's need is not my concern." Generosity quietly attacks that structure. It shows that life is shared, dependence is real, and possession is less solid than it appears. In Dharma traditions, giving often comes before higher practices because it softens the self at the root. A person who cannot give may struggle to see clearly because fear keeps tightening around identity. Some people are struck by the hidden psychology here. Generosity is not only about helping someone else. It changes the giver. It loosens the hand. It widens the field of concern. It proves through action that the boundary around the self is not absolute. What we release can reveal what we were worshipping. Humility matters because Dharma often begins where certainty ends. Certainty can be useful when it protects clear truth. It can also become a wall that prevents learning. Dharma traditions repeatedly warn against the arrogance of thinking one has already understood. The mind loves to finish the mystery too early. It turns teachings into slogans. It turns partial insight into identity. It turns a little discipline into pride. Humility opens another possibility. It allows correction. It allows listening. It allows the practitioner to notice what has been missed. This is not weakness. It is spiritual intelligence. A person who cannot be taught cannot be transformed. Some people are drawn to hidden knowledge because they suspect official answers are incomplete. Dharma would add a further warning. Personal certainty can be just as blinding as public dogma. The question is not only whether society has lied to us. The question is whether the ego has lied more quietly. Humility is the doorway through which deeper seeing can enter. Impermanence makes Dharma urgent without making life meaningless. Everything changes. This is easy to say and difficult to absorb. The body changes. Relationships change. Moods change. Wealth changes. Reputation changes. Civilizations change. Even the thoughts that seem to define us arise and pass. Dharma does not present this as a reason for despair. It presents it as a reason to wake up. If things are unstable, then clinging to them as permanent creates suffering. If moments do not return, then conduct matters now. If death is real, then resentment becomes expensive. Some people find impermanence terrifying because it removes the fantasy of control. Yet it also gives life intensity. A conversation matters because it will not happen in exactly the same way again. A kindness matters because timing is fragile. Practice matters because delay is not neutral. Dharma turns impermanence into urgency. not panic. Urgency. It says, the passing nature of life is precisely why wisdom should not be postponed. Mindfulness became famous worldwide as one doorway into Dharma practice. Today, mindfulness appears in hospitals, schools, apps, boardrooms, therapy rooms, and sports training. Yet its deeper roots are far older than its modern packaging. In Dharma practice, mindfulness is not merely calming down. It is the disciplined remembering to know what is happening while it is happening. The body is known as body. Feeling is known as feeling. Thought is known as thought. Reaction is known before it becomes action. That simple shift can change a life. Some people encounter mindfulness first as stress relief, then discover it points toward a much larger investigation. Who is aware? What is a thought before we believe it? How does suffering grow when we stop paying attention? The modern world loves mindfulness because distraction has become normal. Dharma gives it a deeper purpose. Attention is not just a wellness tool. It is a doorway into freedom from automatic living. Buddhist psychology studied attention long before modern cognitive science. Long before laboratories measured attention, Buddhist practitioners were observing the mind with extraordinary patience. They studied how perception forms, how emotions arise, how habits repeat, and how attention can be trained. They noticed that the mind does not simply record reality. It interprets, filters, reacts, and clings. This makes Buddhist psychology fascinating to modern listeners. It feels ancient and strangely current at the same time. The methods were different from modern science, but the seriousness of observation was undeniable. Practitioners used meditation as a way to watch mental events from within. They developed detailed vocabularies for wholesome states, harmful states, concentration, distraction, craving, and insight. Some people hear this and wonder whether inner exploration once advanced further than our culture admits. Dharma traditions treated consciousness as a field worthy of lifelong study. They did not wait for machines to prove the mind was complex. They sat down, watched carefully, and discovered a universe. Dharma traditions often examine the mind with remarkable practical precision. This precision is not cold or abstract. It is meant to reduce suffering. A teaching may distinguish between desire and attachment, pain and resistance, thought and awareness, guilt and remorse, effort and strain. These distinctions matter because confusion keeps people trapped. If someone mistakes anxiety for intuition, they may obey fear. If they mistake numbness for peace, they may avoid healing. If they mistake craving for love, they may call dependence devotion. Dharma analysis gives the mind better tools. It teaches the practitioner to name experience accurately, so experience can be handled wisely. Some people find this more compelling than vague spirituality. It does not simply say, "Be better." It asks what exactly is happening inside. Where did the reaction begin? What belief feeds it? What happens if attention stays steady? This is why Dharma remains powerful. It does not only inspire the seeker, it teaches the seeker how to investigate the machinery of inner life. The self is questioned because clinging to it creates suffering. In ordinary life, the self feels obvious. There is a me who wants, fears, remembers, owns, compares, and defends. Dharma traditions ask us to look more closely. Is this self as solid as it feels? Is it one thing, or a changing process of body, memory, perception, habit, and story? This inquiry can sound strange at first. Then its practical purpose becomes clear. Much suffering comes from protecting an image. We defend opinions as if they were flesh. We treat criticism like injury. We cling to roles long after they have stopped serving life. Questioning the self is not meant to erase humanity. It is meant to loosen false ownership. Some people find this one of the most mind-bending ideas in world spirituality. The thing we defend most fiercely may not exist in the way we imagine. If that is true, then liberation is not adding something new. It is seeing through a mistaken center. Emptiness does not mean nothing exists, but nothing exists alone. This teaching is often misunderstood because the word can sound nihilistic. In many Buddhist traditions, emptiness does not mean the world is fake or worthless. It means things lack isolated, independent existence. Everything depends on causes, parts, conditions, perception, language, and relationship. A table depends on wood, tools, labor, space, naming, and use. A mood depends on memory, body chemistry, situation, and interpretation. A person depends on ancestry, food, culture, breath, care, and countless unseen conditions. This is not nothingness. It is radical interdependence. Some people find it astonishing because it dissolves the fantasy of separation without denying ordinary life. The world remains, but it is seen differently. Nothing stands alone like a sealed object. Everything is woven through everything else. Dharma uses this insight to weaken clinging and deepen compassion. If nothing exists alone, then harming another is never as separate as the ego pretends. Dependent origination shows that every experience arises through conditions. This is one of the most powerful frameworks in Buddhist thought. It says, events do not arise from nowhere. They appear through causes and conditions. A reaction may depend on a memory, a bodily state, a belief, a tone of voice, and a habit formed years earlier. A conflict may depend on fear, misunderstanding, social pressure, and unspoken desire. Seeing this changes how a person understands life. Instead of asking only who is to blame, Dharma asks what conditions produced the suffering. That does not remove responsibility. It makes responsibility more intelligent. Some people are fascinated by this because it feels like uncovering hidden machinery beneath events. Nothing is as isolated as it first appears. A moment of anger has roots. A moment of kindness has roots. Even a thought has conditions. This insight can make practice very practical. Change the conditions, and the future begins to change. Dharma becomes the art of working with causes. This insight makes blame less simple and compassion more intelligent. When we see that actions arise through conditions, blame starts to lose its crude shape. This does not mean harmful behavior should be excused. It means understanding becomes more precise. A person who harms may still need to be stopped, corrected, or held accountable. But Dharma asks us to see the web behind the act. Ignorance, trauma, fear, craving, confusion, and social forces may all be involved. This broader view protects compassion from becoming naive. It also protects justice from becoming revenge. Some people find this deeply challenging because blame feels satisfying. It gives the mind a target. It makes pain feel organized. Yet it can also trap everyone inside the same story. Dharma offers a different intelligence. Understand the causes, and you may prevent the repetition. Understand the conditions, and you may respond without hatred. Compassion becomes sharper, not softer. It sees suffering clearly enough to interrupt its chain. Dharma can turn failure into instruction rather than identity. Failure becomes devastating when the ego turns an event into a self-definition. I failed becomes I am a failure. Dharma interrupts that collapse. It asks what the experience reveals. Was there ignorance? Was there impatience? Was there attachment to praise? Was there a neglected duty? Was there a hidden fear driving the choice? In this way, failure becomes material for awakening. That does not make it pleasant. It makes it useful. Some people find this approach liberating because it avoids both shame and denial. The mistake is not worshipped, but it is not wasted. It becomes a teacher. Many spiritual stories contain moments where the seeker falls, misjudges, or loses certainty. The important question is what happens next. Does the person harden, or do they learn? Dharma turns life into training by refusing to throw away painful evidence. Even humiliation can become a doorway if it leads to greater honesty, better action, and less illusion. Ethical living is treated as training for seeing clearly. Morality is often presented as obedience to rules, but Dharma gives it another dimension. Ethical conduct changes perception. When a person lies, exploits, or indulges cruelty, the mind becomes disturbed and defensive. It must protect the falsehood. It must justify the harm. It must avoid the mirror. When conduct becomes cleaner, the mind has less to hide from. This is why ethics supports insight. It creates the inner conditions for clarity. Some people are surprised by this because they imagine meditation alone will solve confusion. Dharma traditions often disagree. A mind filled with deceit and harm will struggle to settle deeply because its own actions keep echoing. Ethical living is not a punishment. It is preparation. It trains sensitivity. It steadies attention. It makes self-deception harder to maintain. The fascinating idea is that truth is not seen only by thinking correctly. It is seen by becoming the kind of person who can bear it. Community matters because Dharma is difficult to sustain alone. A person may feel inspired in solitude, but daily life tests inspiration quickly. Old habits return. Doubt grows. Pride hides. Discouragement whispers. Community gives the path a living container. Other practitioners can encourage, correct, challenge, and remind. They can notice blind spots that the individual cannot see. This is why Dharma traditions often value shared practice. Not because crowds are automatically wise, but because isolation can become a private echo chamber. Some people drawn to alternative ideas know this danger well. A lone seeker can discover unusual truths, but can also drift into fantasy without correction. Dharma community is meant to protect the path from both laziness and delusion. It provides rhythm, accountability, memory, and companionship. The real fascination is that awakening may be deeply personal without being purely individual. We walk with our own mind, yet we are shaped by those beside us. The path needs solitude, but it also needs witnesses. The Sangha preserves Dharma through shared practice and mutual correction. In Buddhism, the Sangha is not merely an audience for teachings. It is one of the structures that keeps the teaching alive. Practitioners gather, follow discipline, recite, learn, meditate, support one another, and correct one another when the path is being distorted. This matters because wisdom can decay when it depends only on individual preference. One person may forget. One person may exaggerate. One person may confuse charisma with realization. A community can carry memory more strongly than a solitary mind. Some people find this fascinating because it reveals the social technology behind spiritual survival. Dharma needed more than inspired individuals. It needed forms of life that could transmit practice through time. The Sangha became a vessel. It protected teachings from vanishing into rumor. It gave seekers a place to test themselves. It also made humility unavoidable because no one practices perfectly alone. Mutual correction becomes compassion with a backbone. Teachers are respected because Dharma often needs living example. A text can preserve a teaching, but a living person can show what the teaching looks like under pressure. That is why teachers matter. They embody tone, timing, restraint, compassion, discipline, and discernment in ways words alone cannot capture. A student may read about patience for years, then finally understand it by watching someone remain steady in a difficult moment. A teacher can also diagnose confusion directly. They may see when effort has become pride, when calm has become avoidance, or when devotion has become dependence. Some people are fascinated by this because it suggests wisdom is partly transmitted through presence. Not magic in the careless sense, more like a human nervous system learning from another that has been trained. Of course, respect must never mean blind surrender. Dharma honors teachers because embodiment matters, but it also warns that authority can corrupt. The true teacher points beyond themselves. Their life becomes evidence, not an idol. False teachers are warned against in many Dharma traditions. The warning exists because spiritual longing makes people vulnerable. A seeker wants meaning, healing, certainty, and belonging. A false teacher can exploit that hunger. They may use impressive language, ritual authority, secret claims, or emotional pressure to gain control. Dharma traditions know this danger well. They warn students to examine conduct, not merely charisma. Does the teacher show restraint? Do they welcome honest questions? Do they use power responsibly? Do they become richer, louder, and more untouchable, while followers become smaller? Some people drawn to hidden knowledge understand how easily mystery can be abused. The more powerful a claim sounds, the more carefully it should be tested. Dharma does not ask seekers to become cynical. It asks them to become discerning. True guidance makes a person clearer, freer, and more ethically awake. False guidance makes a person dependent, confused, or afraid. The difference can decide the direction of an entire life. Transmission matters because wisdom can fade when practice becomes performance. A tradition can keep its clothing while losing its heart. The words remain. The gestures remain. The ceremonies remain. Yet the inner discipline may weaken. Dharma traditions understand this danger, which is why transmission matters. Real transmission is not only passing information from one generation to another. It is passing a way of seeing, practicing, correcting, and living. Without that, wisdom becomes theater. People may recite teachings they no longer test. They may perform humility while secretly feeding pride. They may preserve symbols while forgetting what the symbols were meant to transform. Some people find this unsettling because it applies to every tradition, ancient or modern. Anything living can become empty form. Dharma survives only when people renew it through practice. The chain is not maintained by nostalgia. It is maintained by realization, discipline, and honest correction. Transmission asks whether the flame is still warm or whether only the lamp remains. Dharma survives by adapting without losing its central discipline. This is one reason it has lasted across centuries and cultures. Dharma can enter new languages, new political worlds, new technologies, and new personal struggles. It can speak to monks, householders, activists, scholars, therapists, artists, and ordinary people trying to suffer less. Yet adaptation is risky. Change too little, and the teaching becomes unreachable. Change too much, and it becomes something else entirely. The art is to translate without hollowing out. Some people are fascinated by this because it resembles the survival of a living organism. Dharma remains alive by responding to conditions while preserving its inner structure. Ethical seriousness must remain. Attention must remain. Responsibility must remain. The inquiry into suffering must remain. Without these, the word becomes decoration. With them, the teaching can wear new forms without losing its force. The future of Dharma depends on this balance. It must meet the modern world without becoming another product of distraction. The modern world needs Dharma because distraction has become a habit. Distraction is no longer an occasional problem. It has become an environment. Messages, feeds, alarms, opinions, advertisements, and endless choices compete for the mind before the day has properly begun. A person can spend hours reacting without ever choosing where attention should go. Dharma becomes powerful here because it treats attention as sacredly important. What we attend to shapes what we become. A scattered mind becomes easy to manipulate. A restless mind struggles to love deeply, think clearly, or suffer wisely. Some people sense that modern life is not simply busy. It is engineered to keep desire moving. Dharma offers resistance at the most basic level. Stop. Notice. Choose. Return. That may sound simple, but in this age, it is almost revolutionary. The battle is no longer only for belief. It is for the capacity to remain present. Without that, freedom becomes a word used by people who cannot sit still. Ancient Dharma still speaks because human confusion has not disappeared. The clothing of life has changed, but the inner knots remain familiar. People still cling to praise. They still fear loss. They still chase pleasure beyond wisdom. They still mistake impulse for freedom and opinion for truth. They still suffer from envy, pride, loneliness, craving, and the refusal to see clearly. This is why Dharma does not feel like a museum object. It speaks to patterns that survive every century. Some people are fascinated by ancient teachings because they suspect the past knew things the present forgot. Dharma often confirms that suspicion. It does not need modern language to recognize the mind. It saw the machinery early. It studied suffering before distraction became digital. It studied desire before advertising became global. It studied identity before social media made self-display constant. The forms change. The confusion remains. That is why old teachings can feel strangely new. They are addressing the human condition beneath the costume of the age. Its deepest promise is freedom through seeing life more clearly. Dharma does not promise freedom through fantasy. It does not ask us to pretend suffering is unreal or that conduct has no consequence. Its promise is more demanding and more powerful. See clearly. See how craving operates. See how fear shapes reaction. See how the self is constructed. See how actions bear fruit. See how everything depends on conditions. The clearer the seeing becomes, the less blindly the person moves. This is freedom in a serious sense. Not the freedom to obey every desire, but the freedom to stop being deceived by desire. Not the freedom to escape life, but the freedom to meet life without so much distortion. Some people find this more compelling than supernatural promises because it begins immediately. The next moment can be seen more clearly than the last. The next reaction can be understood before it rules. Dharma's deepest promise is not an escape hatch. It is awakening inside reality. Dharma invites a person to become trustworthy to reality itself. This final idea gathers the path into a single challenge. To become trustworthy to reality means to stop bargaining with truth. It means not pretending actions have no consequences. It means not demanding permanence from what changes. It means not using spirituality to decorate avoidance. It means becoming the kind of person who can meet life without constant distortion. That is a severe and beautiful invitation. Some people seek Dharma for comfort, and comfort may come. But the deeper work is alignment. The mind becomes less false. Speech becomes more careful. Action becomes more responsible. Attention becomes less easily stolen. Compassion becomes less selective. The person begins to support the order they once resisted. This is why Dharma can feel so vast. It is not only a teaching to believe, it is a way of becoming reliable in the presence of existence. The question it leaves behind is simple. Can a human life become a place where truth feels safe? And so we come to the end of this journey through Dharma. We have seen how one ancient word could hold so much human meaning. It has pointed us toward duty, truth, conduct, attention, compassion, and the deep order that people have sensed beneath ordinary life. We have followed it through empires and scriptures. We have seen it enter monasteries, courts, homes, rivers, roads, and quiet moments of choice. Dharma has asked us to look at suffering without turning away. It has asked us to notice the mind before it becomes a storm. It has shown us that action matters, speech matters, and even the smallest intention can leave a trace. Across many traditions, it has returned to one steady invitation. Live in a way that supports clarity. Live in a way that reduces harm. Live in a way that can stand before truth. And now, as the teaching settles, let the questions grow softer. There is nothing more to solve tonight. Let the body feel its own weight. Let the shoulders release the last effort of the day. Let the breath move without being forced. If a thought comes, let it pass like a traveler on a distant road. If you enjoyed this journey, I invite you to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below. It helps this little corner of wisdom reach another sleepy soul. And if you happen to still be awake, there will be another video waiting on the screen for you. You can follow it into another calm exploration, or simply let this one be enough. For now, allow the mind to loosen its grip. Let Dharma become simple again. A breath, a pause, a quieter way of being. Sleep well, and good night.